Just open gaming on Linux for reference here. It's since this is more general, more general discussion. We had also on some friends' streams a lot of discussions on this topic in the past few days and weeks. And in social media, you had, of course, the Linux challenge from Linus Tech Tips that they started, and recently also a video by Epos Vox, if I remember correctly. And every one of them basically ran into stumbling blocks during their experiences. And the whole discussion in regards to is Linux ready for the average consumer really was spawned thanks to Valve announcing that they're going to release the Steam Deck based on Linux. And as a preamble, from my perspective, I have been using multiple different operating systems over the year. I have daily driven Windows, I have daily driven Linux, I have daily driven Mac OS. So for me, overall, all of these operating systems have their advantages and disadvantages. But I myself am a developer and I am a power user. So it's hard to really say, okay, that my experiences with these platforms are equal to the experiences that a normal consumer would have. And that is really the for me, out of all these videos, the key takeaway. Because when you're going into Linux, you can definitely daily drive it, definitely, for work and play, but it really depends on your use case and the distribution you're choosing for that, and that will heavily define the experience that you will be having, because both Linus Tech Tips and Epos Vox basically ran into issues with their specific distributions, and knowing things working on other distributions, it would have been a different possibility. But and as they, I think it was Linus Tech Tips pointed out, a huge problem at the moment is the advice for new users which distribution to choose. Sometimes you have even information in the same articles that are controversial to itself. So, for example, for Ubuntu, it says it's beginner-friendly, easy to set up, and on the contrary side, it says, you have it's hard to configure. So, what? And this is something that hopefully through these kinds of discussions that are now happening, hopefully there will be articles, tutorials, or videos that will give people guidance for these kinds of choices. So that will be a huge step for making the experience for new Linux users a lot better. And of course, one point also was when you're going into gaming, it depends on your use case. There are a lot of places that you can find out which games are running well, or basically running out of the box. If your games that you want to play fall into that category, it's easy sailing. But there are also games that you have to put into some work to get them running, and there you're again very heavily dependent on the community. And if you're not familiar with the community and the technical stuff, that can be hard. But important to say, since Valve is now working on SteamOS and the whole integration with Steam for basically every game that they have on their catalog, that is something that is probably about to change, at least for games that are still actively sold on Steam. For third-party games or games that are not sold anymore on Steam, that situation will be different.